All right, so now this is dry. So I'm gonna paint the second pumpkin. And this one I am going to paint like it's more reddish orange. Just because I feel like it. And it's my pumpkin, so I get to decide, right? And first, of course, I'm putting the water in, trying to avoid the stem, and I think that's good. And my palette here, I have my transparent yellow and my red, quinacridone red. I took a little bit of that over there, and I'm going to take a little bit of the quinacridone gold. Okay. And I'm going to start here. Around the stem. And then go down on this side. It's very wet, so go back on the towel and get some of that moisture off. Here on this side, it's away from the light, so put a little bit more color in there. And this also, it's down at the bottom here. Take a little bit more of that water off. And it's going down here. There. And I have that uneven edge down here, that indicating those leaves that are sticking up and kind of obscuring the bottom of the pumpkin. And again, I'm taking, it's a little wet there, so I was a little generous with the water, let's put it that way. That's okay. So okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to dab it so that it's just damp, and then I'm going to just kind of pull up the rest of that pigment so that I have a much lighter top, because it's, you know, the part where the light hits it. So pull this up. There we have it. I think I want to put a little bit more yellow in. So I'm just kind of dabbing in, just putting my tip in, and you can see it runs right off my brush and onto the paper. Of course, now it's wet. All right, so far so good. Let's see, I'm just trying to see if I can clean some edges up while I'm at it. Okay. Rinse out my brush, dab it on my towel, and just pick up a little bit of a highlight there. Let's pick up a little bit of a highlight there. A little bit there. Even a little bit around there to indicate that rounded shape that they have. And I like that I got it a little bit darker around the stem. That totally makes sense. Clean this up a little bit. There. Okay, and maybe I want to dab just a little bit down here where I got a little bit of the red on the leaf area. And before it dries on me, I'm going to take a little bit of a smaller brush, and now I'm going to go in and get a little bit of that orange on, and then I'm getting a little bit of the burnt sienna on here. Get a darker color, a bit more of that red. There, that's what I'm after. Dab, dab, dab a whole bunch of times on my towel here, because I want to make sure that this is not too wet on my brush. And when I do these things, I just kind of touch in with the tip and I see what happens. And here it's happening what I hoped it would happen, that just a little bit of that pigment runs off the brush and darkens this area a little bit, and it doesn't leave it doesn't leave an edge or anything, just kind of generally disappears into the pigment I've already put down there. So that's exactly the right dryness, wetness that I needed. And you never know that. I don't care how much experience you have. Sometimes, we don't get it right. There. I really wanted to darken down there, so that's good. And now I'm getting a little braver. You can see here, it's already drying. Can you see it doesn't move? And I might get a little run back, who knows. I'm just going to go in with a almost dry brush and just gently, I'm barely touching. Just want to see if I can let that can go down like this. That would be great. So I'm just trying to get that to disappear down there. Yeah, and then I better hold my horses, so to speak. However, now that I had this lovely color on here, put a little bit more water on, a little bit more pigment, lighten it up a little bit. Dab, dab, dab. So now here it's dry, but I want to get a little bit more definition here. So I'm just putting a little bit of pigment around here, the bottom part, around the stem. I'm going to leave this brush. I'm going to be fancy and paint with two brushes. And then, I have this bigger brush and it's just damp. And I'm just going to gently get this pigment dragged out here so that I don't get a hard line or anything, but just darkens it a little bit underneath here to start giving it more shape. There. Can you see how that pushed it in a little bit? And now that it's damp, I can go in and maybe try and deposit a little bit more pigment. Ooh, I don't know about that. Maybe it was too much. Maybe I have too much wetness on here, I'm not sure. But again, I can do the same thing with a barely damp brush, and I'm barely touching. This is very delicate, and you just gotta kind of test it out. Alright, so I'm gonna go over here where it's dry, and I'm gonna go down a little bit where those ridges are, like that. And I'm going to get a damp brush, clean, and before it dries, I'm hoping to be able to kind of drag it down. I'm going to be careful here because it might still be wet. Hopefully before it dries on, because I don't want, I don't want a stripe like you have right here. That wasn't my intention. I want to loosen that edge just so it, like that. Yeah, I think that's good. And I can go in and I can do a little bit more now. And then I've got a little water in there. Can you see that? And again, with this other brush that's barely, it's just barely damp. Can drag that out. And we have another ridge here. I can go in and put a little bit of that darker pigment on there. And then the clean damp brush, right away go in and soften that edge. I want to soften a little bit on the other side too. There. I hope you can see that now it's getting a little bit more shape. Still damp there. Can you see how it spreads? That's, you can see it's still damp. There. Just trying to give it a little bit more shape. And dark pushes back and light brings forward, and it's the knowledge of that I'm taking advantage of. And then down here and on this side too, I want to darken a little bit because there it's turning away. It's already on the shadow side, but it's also turning away more from the light and going down under, so to speak. So let's just get that in, and it'll be darker right here. and a little bit up here. And this, you know, this is a little time consuming, and it's because, you know, you kind of have to, I think you have to do it a little bit in stages and not just go overboard right away. Okay, so get a little bit more of that color on, and I'm painting on dry. So I want my pigment to be a little wetter just so it doesn't dry on me before I've had time to loose the edges there. And the same thing, just gonna go in and just spread that pigment around. Just trying to give it a little bit more curvature, however you say that. All right. And it's one of those where you should stop often and evaluate and see what you got going on. There's no need to go further than you need, but I like it. I think it's getting better. It's getting better, so I'm encouraged to continue. So I'm going to go up here and just do a couple of these ridges, and you can see I don't go all the way. It'll be darker here where it goes in a little bit towards that stem area. So just gently, with just barely damp brush. Don't have your brush dripping wet. That's not gonna be very helpful. And here we go, and then up here. Yeah, it's getting better. And we need a little bit more here. So I'm just putting a little bit of that pigment in to give more shape to my pumpkin. Kind of lost it there. Drag it out a little bit like that. And it's going to be a little darker. Right around here it's going to be a little darker. Goes in for that stem. And it's going to be a little darker here. And go. There. I think that's better. And then I'm going to go build it up a little bit here. And it's going to be a little darker right here too. You have to remember to rinse your brush out after you've kind of lost the edges, because that means that your brush is picking up that pigment. There. Let's see, yeah, it's getting better. I still feel that here it needs to be darker. And this is where I've got to be really careful that I don't get any hard edges or backgrounds or any other such thing. Yeah. So I think just strengthening my color a little bit. Of course, down here it really needs to be darker. There's no getting around it. It needs to be darker. damp brush, loosen the edges. And paint around that stem. And in here it will definitely also be darker. And it's going to be a little lighter right here. So I lifted that out while it's still damp. And then with a clean damp brush, let's see if we can spread this around and not have a hard line. So it's all these nice soft transitions that give us a nice softness. There. Now I'm just lifting up a little bit. Okay, and it's going to be a lot darker in here too. There. And I'll give it a little ridge there and there. Clean my brush. There. And it will be darker in here, right under that stem here. I need to darken it a little bit. And barely touching. Just kind of softening it out. Yeah, it's getting better. And I'm just moving around. Then here, dabbing in a little bit more of that darker pigment. And see if we're just softening it out. And then it'll be a little bit darker right here. Right on there. Clean my brush, dab it, and drag it out so I don't want a line there. Just want it a little bit darker, saying that it's turning away from the light. There. Dabbing a little bit more. On that side too. Okay. And then here, need to darken it a little bit here too. There. And then catch these edges before they dry on me. Pull them out. Clean my brush, make sure it's just damp. It's too wet. Oops. And maybe even a little bit darker over here. And my damp brush. There. So try to do your brush strokes in the direction of how the pumpkin grows, so to speak. Up here. Needs to be lightest on that side, and this light area doesn't really make sense to me. So I want to darken it a little bit, but without darkening it too much. There, that's better. Clean it out. There, I think that's better. And a little bit of an indentation there. This is too hard of a line, so I just want to soften that. Barely touching. Alright, I think that's better. I'm just building up a little bit more depth, contrast. There we go. Soften here a little bit. Now the yellows, they don't lift as easily as say the blues, minus the French ultramarine blue is super easy to lift. So is the cobalt. Burnt sienna is okay. The transparent yellow not so much, and quinacridone red, quinacridone gold, they all stain, meaning that they're harder to lift. Just strengthening a little bit here. Lifting it out. Every time I put the pigment in like this, I don't want it to be like hard edged stripes, so I go back and I soften out the edges. So it looks more natural. Put a little bit into that stem. Get that out when I can. There. Alright. Okay. I don't think I want to doctor around on this one anymore right now. I can build this one up. That's dry now. So I'm going to take some more of the red and make it a deeper orange with the transparent yellow, a little bit of the burnt sienna and quinacridone gold, so really deep orange, reddish orange. And so I'm just kind of building in here around the stem. Go down a little bit where I have those indentations there. And don't want to lift that, or rinse that beautiful pigment out of my brush yet, so I'm using this other brush to pull it down. Before it dries on me, hopefully. And I'm going to be careful here that I don't lose the highlight. There. And then down here. Before it dries, pull it down. There. Here I can give it a little bit more, here a little bit more, and then down here it'll be a little darker again because it's away from the light, so I can put a little bit more of that pigment in there. There. And then rinse out my brush. Dab it a bunch of times and then move this pigment up. Just don't want to get any hard edges. Everything nice and soft. A little bit darker down here. There. Rinse out my brush. Make sure it's not too wet. There we have it. Okay. Darker down here too. And then get it up there. So this is beginning to look rounder, more shape. And make sure I get extra pigment in around here. Of course, that's where it's the darkest. And then get these lines out again. And again, just softening it out. There. And a little bit on this side. Of course, that's also away from the light. And so is over here. Right there. There. A little bit more there. And rinse out my brush and dab it before I go in here and gently coach this color. There we go. Down there and down there, and here we want to make sure we keep that highlight going. And I think maybe lift out a little bit, just like that, before it dries completely. Get a little sunshine also on this edge. When you lift out, you have to remember you have to dab off your brush, because that pigment you lift out, it's in your brush. So if you don't dab it and clean it often, you'll end up just depositing more pigment. Let's see, how does that look? That looks pretty good. All right, we'll leave that for now and continue when it's dry.